Hello, hello. I know, but I'm not exactly talking either, so I did go live, but when well, I go live at 6 on Saturday and then 7 during the week. Well, okay. So that's done. And then we'll do this stuff. Hi, Edic. Edek. How is everybody? Sorry, I'm not looking at you. I am setting up. No, we'll talk about it. At some point, anyway, we will talk about it. Okay. And that's okay. That is perfectly okay. Nothing wrong with that at all. No, we're not going to give it a few minutes. We're going to get started because it's already 4 after. I don't know where the time goes sometimes. So anyway, Rocky Shores. Interesting. So tidal pools a lot of times are in areas where you have sort of a rocky shore area, and you'll have depressions in the rocks or hole in the rocks where water can sit. And so when the tide goes out, these low areas in the rocks retain water. Abdullah, do not spam my channel with nonsense, dude. You've been warned. If he continues, you know what to do. So tide pooling, you end up with these areas where it retains water, and you'll get animals that live inside of those pools. And then when the tide comes back in, it covers those up and life goes on as normal. But you'll get all types of animals inside those pools. And tide pool is going and exploring those tide pools. So rocky shores or sandy shores are all about the life that lives there. And this very well may be the most studied marine ecosystem because it is the most widely accessible ecosystem, along with beaches. So organisms that live in this environment have a lot of challenges that they have to overcome. They have to deal with pounding waves, exposure to the air and the sun, along with predators that may be about. So animals and plants here have to be adapted to all of this. Carrie, he's been warned. So the next time he needs to be gone. And if it is racial intent, then if it's racial, the next comment, if it's racially charged, he needs to be reported and he needs to be gone. Because I'm not dealing with it. He's had his warning. He can either be timed out for 24 hours or he can be gone. Thank you. So these animals have to be adapted for it. And they're going to do this in various ways. So one thing right away, if you are on these rocks and a wave comes in, yeah, it was. I don't think, did we have to remove anybody? We might have timed, I think I timed somebody else. But I think we still timed somebody out. I think so. But it wasn't bad. Not as bad as this. If the animals can't hold on to the rocks, they're going to be swept away. So animals like chitons or snails, they have a really strong foot that locks them in place. Sea stars, like this guy. Whoa. Like this guy have tiny little feet that hold them in place so they don't go flying off. That have to go flying off. And other animals actually just are there, like anemones. they have a foot that is secured. Mussels literally glue themselves to the rock. If you've ever have accidentally superglued your fingers together, that's the same sort of stuff that holds the mussels in place. Yeah, there's nothing annoying as that. We'll talk about that later. They also have to deal with being exposed to the air. And some animals do this in different ways. For mussels, they just close up. And that's how they protect themselves. I was looking for something, but I can't find it. Oh. Okay. If you know what a barnacle is, barnacles also close themselves up. Other animals will go into tidal pools. Well, barnacles will also live on rocks. They're not... Sorry for the view. Ow! 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 So these guys there's volcanoes underwater, so maybe. These are barnacles, and they would have a ridge, a little hole right here that their feet would come out of, and that's what they use to grab food. And then they would have a lid that would close up over them, and that's how they would survive. But yes, barnacles on a boat, and they have different size ones. Here's some big ones. You can see the big ones. But if you look here, there's a bunch of tiny ones. These are different types. No, what I did to answer your question, am I okay? I'm on the skinny side, and I was resting my leg on the chair while I was getting my barnacles out of the box that they're in, and I accidentally clicked too hard on it. Oh, they can be. It depends on the species. Other organisms that you might see, we've already talked about starfish. But of course there are sea urchins. And so one of the ways that these guys, oh wait, I didn't finish. I'm sorry, I'm skipping. So some animals will go underneath rocks, which of course helps to retain water, and others will hide amongst the seaweed or kelp. Now they also have to deal with predators. And so you'll get crabs, or not crabs, but clams. They have the shell, and mollusk also. Other mollusks like limpets or mussels will close up. And it's a little bit harder for predators to get to them. Sea urchins, of course, when they're alive, have the spines on them. And of course, crabs have their pinchers that they use to protect themselves. It's okay. You can be silly. So the rocky shores have the tides coming in and going out and coming out and coming in. But with that, you have the tide pools. And the tide pools are kind of crazy. We're going to use this as if it were a tide pool. The water comes in and it's going to fill this in. And with it, you're going to have animals in here. There might be there could be sea anemones and octopuses, little fish. And depending upon where you live, depends on what animals you're going to find in that tide pool. Now, there are also zones within a rocky shore. So the higher up that you go on a rocky shore, we're going to do it this way, dictates the zone that you're in. So the highest zone is the splash zone. And the splash zone is exactly what you think. This is a spot where basically waves splash on it. It's a place where high tide sometimes comes in. MJL, that's not nose hair. That's my mustache. Grow up. MJL, enough. That is your warning. Goodbye. The splash zone is also a place that can sometimes be submerged during high tide or during, like, I don't know, a hurricane or a cyclone or a typhoon. You can have plants growing in the splash zone. They have to be adapted to being able to maintain salt levels. So if they can't withstand the salt, they're probably not going to be growing there. The next part is slightly lower on the shore, and this is the upper shore, and this is the place where you're going to start seeing animals. Guys, the question that you're going to see on the screen is made by YouTube, and it's just a random thing to get you guys talking. It's called, and the question is, liking black licorice, is that weird? I don't like it either. But this zone is where you're going to see mussels, you're going to see oysters, limpets, barnacles, and they have to, the animals that live in this upper shore, they have to be able to be exposed to the air. They have to be adapted for it. Otherwise, they're not going to survive. And they will get covered when the tide comes back in. The next area is the middle shore. And this, again, is submerged during high tide. And it's also exposed to the air. And you're going to find much of the same animals as you'll find in the upper shore. The lower shore, why would I want to do that? That is gross. Smoking cigarettes, sorry guys, to those of you who do smoke, but I find it gross. If you want to talk cigarettes, you need to find someplace else to go. Last warning. Baragon Productions, you're new. Believe me, this happens all the time. Maybe not all the time, but it happens a lot. Some lives are worse than others. As Carry Me Through and Ross Lynch, actor fan, can tell you. So in the lower shore, you're going to find snails, crabs, starfish, sea urchins, shrimp, and so much more. That's true. We've had that. And the sad thing is, they're losing out. That's the sad thing. And what's even sadder, if they do get reported for being jerks, I don't feel bad for the end result. I don't. I should, but I don't. So the lower shore is where you will find, wait. So in the middle shore, you might also find, I can never pronounce them, anemones and brown kelp. Yes, you will find sea snails as well. The lower shore is where you start seeing tidal pools. You're going to find snails, crabs, starfish, sea urchins, shrimp, fish. You might find octopus. In some places, you may even find sharks. Like, where is he? Like this guy. This is a banded bamboo shark. Of course, they're a little bit bigger than this, but you get the idea. Here, you still are going to go through periods where you're going to be submerged and times when you're if they're caught up in waves, maybe. Where did I leave off? They also have to be, these animals are also going to be, they're going to be uncovered by water if they're not in a tidal pool for a period of time. But that period of time in this zone is much, much smaller. So tidal pools or rock pools, again, are places where the water gets trapped. Guys, we're going to cancel this one out because you guys have already answered it. See if they give us another one. You could find octopus, like I mentioned. Animals, you're going to find animals that live inside the tidal pools, like their whole life. You're also going to find animals who might get trapped in the tidal pools. One of the issues that you're going to find with the tidal pools is oxygen. You either have plants in that are producing oxygen, or you may find issues because animals need oxygen. It's not something that animals can go without. And you're either taking it directly from the water, which is the case in most cases for ocean animals. But the important thing is that they're able to survive. They can be. I have some snails. I actually own some snails. Well, some snail shells that are very dangerous to humans. Seaweed, not so much. Although definitely there are seaweeds that might be in these tidal pools. But there could also be smaller organisms. Oh. That's something you don't see every day. So these snails, definitely not something you want to mess with. No. Those are actually roundworm. Those are parasites. Those are parasites. But this is a cone shell. This is an example. Yeah. Yeah, it's legal to keep. These are textile cone shells. These, if they were alive, would be a no-go. These are not something you want to touch or pick up if you see them in their natural habitat. They would not look this pretty, probably, in the wild. And you definitely don't want to pick them up because you might think they're dead. You might think that this is dead. And they actually have a harpoon that they work their way out. Yes, actually they are. I used to have some tapeworm. To be honest. These are dead. These were dead before anything else. If your stomach, if you've already ate and there's food in your stomach, I won't tell you the story, but if you want to hear the story sometime, I will tell you the story about them, but these guys, this could be an animal that you could find in a tide pool. Not always a good idea to pick up shells if you don't know what the shell is. Because if this were alive, I would not be touching it at all. This does kill. Make no mistake about it. These medical issue or the parasites? The parasites were not from a human. So I will put that out there. I have a bunch of messages. The tapeworm, same thing with the roundworm. They did not come from a human, and they were quite dead before I even saw them. So that is a story for another day. That is what I have for tonight. So I'm going to open it up for chat. You guys can ask questions. I didn't realize that they would be such a thing. But Yeah. You guys have gone quiet all of a sudden. Are we still here? I feel like you guys have gone silent. I promise you that the animals that I have, everything that I have, um was taken with permission or I bought. In the case of the um the questionable stuff that I have, I was in college and I had to get through something that I really didn't want to do. And so periodically when the the professor was um would allow it after the actual lab stuff was done, I would ask permission to go a little bit deeper. And the animal that we were um do you guys want to hear the story? It is a little bit, it is a little bit gross, and if you're sensitive you may not want to hear it. If you're squeamish you probably don't want to listen. This may be a good time if you're squeamish to say goodbye and then sign back in about 15 minutes. It is. Well, that depends. That depends. But first, the story on this. So, for those of you that don't know, I went to school to be a biologist. So, I had to take all of these science classes, which I loved. What I didn't know until I took the class was in human anatomy and physiology, the class that I went to, the college that I went to didn't have the money for a cadaver. So dissecting a human body, totally out of the question. No, don't do it. Um, so we had another animal that we dissected. And my animal, I never did. I never did. I can honestly say that I've never had to do that. I did have to dissect, but not that. My animal though was really, really sick. And I could tell that they were sick when I saw the heart. A lot of times there will be a little bit of fat on the pericardium. That's the sac that the heart sits in. And there wasn't. And that was concerning. So then we did our dissection of the digestive system. And we had to cut into the stomach. And when I did, I found 2 tapeworms. Now, yes, I'm wearing gloves. I got permission to keep the tapeworms. They were about that big. And then when I started cutting into the intestine, because we had to do that too, it was loaded with roundworm. And so my animal was very sick. Hence the tapeworm and the other. I was going to open up a nature center / zoo. I always have wanted to do that. I never got to that. And so some of the really cool stuff that I have like that doesn't get shown very much. But that's the story behind them. And somebody else said something that I was going to talk about. Yes, so picking up feathers from your yard, yes. In the United States, if you pick up a feather in your yard, you can be arrested for it. Maybe not arrested, but you could be fined for it. And it can be a hefty fine. If the feather that you pick up is a wild bird, I'm not talking European starlings or house sparrows. I'm talking things like cardinals, blue jays, woodpeckers, goldfinches, birds that are native. You can be fined. So basically, it works like this. In the United States, we have a we have a protection. We have a Bird Protection Act. It's called the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And unless you have a permit to collect the feathers, you can be fined up to $150,000 and or go to jail for 6 months. And it's no joke. No. No, if you pick up if you pick up feathers, let's see. You can be fined. Now, if it is a bald eagle, laws are you know what? I was going to be nice, but I don't like racism in my videos or in my lives. You're being reported. T1, you're being reported for racism. And what is this? Oh, you put 2 comments up in my live. That means you get reported twice. Lucky person. And I'm going to be meaner than Carrie was. And I'm going to hide you. Is everybody still here? I didn't accidentally knock somebody out. Baragon, you're still here? Everybody still here? Yeah. I actually have a, maybe I should print it off. Give me a second. And I want to show you guys something. It should only take me a minute. Come on. Come on. Sorry, guys. I'll be right with you. I'm looking for something on my computer, and it's not in the right place. There it is. Give me a second, guys. I'll be right back. I don't think so. I'm back. For better or for worse, I'm back. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where people get that I'm mixed. What did it do? Hold on. A stupid thing printed. I am so fed up. I'm back again. I agree, Baragon. I agree. I was printing out something that I wanted to show you guys. But my printer is dumb. Instead of printing the entire document, it printed out some of it, but not all of it. I got 3 sheets, and there should have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets, but it didn't. So, like Baragon, I've heard of cheese on fries. Like nacho cheese. So good. I've always wanted to own my own zoo. And so I started a thing on my computer that gives me my own zoo. And I'm not talking, I am not talking about Zoo Tycoon or Planet Zoo. This is on my computer. It is a word process file. And when I'm watching a nature show, I have this file open along with a database file. And I go through and I will put the animals that I see on the TV into the exhibits that they would go into. So I have an aquarium, I have a rainforest, small mammal house, venom house, insect house, herp house, South American exhibit, North American exhibit, an invertebrate house, an Asian exhibit, a children's zoo, polar region exhibit, predators, an exhibit that features animals from our homes, a primate house, an area for animals that live in herds, and then a nocturnal house, an islands exhibit, birds of prey, a mountain exhibit, Middle East, Europe, waterfowl lake, Africa, flamingo lake, Madagascar trail, perching birds, deserts, grasslands, African savanna, Okavango Delta, a pachyderm house, American prairie, an Australian house, urban animals, India supercontinent, aquatic birdhouse, Alaskan journey, China, Mexican wildlife, habitat house that's actually part of the habitat house is in the Children's Zoo, Central America, an exhibit that features the national parks from the United States. And then there's a bird show also in the Children's Zoo. There's an animatronic section that is mystical creatures as well as creatures of the past, and an exhibit that features animals from the Viking lands. Oh man, Baragon Productions. Let me tell you, I was going to open up an insect zoo, And it's crazy. One of the museums in my area, they did a thing on backyard insects, and they had, like, I'm 5 foot, and some of these insects were bigger than me. Animatronic, scorpion, I think. There was a spider. They had other stuff. So I had plans to open up an insect zoo. And I had it all listed out from start to finish. I had like something like 32 species on my list. Yeah, it was really cool, Ross Lynch, actor fan. Yeah, only animals. You know, some of the animatronics are kind of creepy. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how many different animals I have in these exhibits. Probably over 1,000, maybe more, probably more like 1,000,000. And what's great about it is it's mine. And I can do whatever I want with it because it's not real. I can have any animals I want. Because zoos have to play by rules. It's so not fair. To a certain extent. My in my African exhibit, I have a Rift Valley that contains cichlids and otters. The European exhibit features mountains, grasslands, Europe at night, a city's portion, rivers, an Arctic zone, taiga, a beaver pond, a Danube Delta, the Mediterranean Sea, forest, Nordic lands, lakes. The island exhibit includes Cuba, Madagascar, the Galapagos, Hawaii, New Guinea, Solomon Islands. There's a reef, Fiji, French Polynesian, nighttime, an atoll, the Caribbean, Great Britain, Christmas Island, Sumatra, Borneo, Komodo, Japan, the Philippines, Indonesia, Sulawesi, a mangrove swamp, a mudflat, Sri Lanka, Puerto Rico, the Florida Keys, Greenland. Oh, and I love having the freedom to just play around and come up with stuff and envision it in my head. I had it all mapped out on graph paper. I didn't know how to do models, but I'd love to do sometime make models of it. The African savanna portion of it has predators, a section for herds, an aviary, elephants, a section that is a building that has little things in it like insects and snakes and stuff. There's a river that is home to crocodiles and hippos, a section for scavengers, nighttime, savanna, herps, baboons, animals that burrow. Jaguars would be cool. I just saw where there's a new male potentially in the United States. So that's really cool. A new male jaguar that may be in the United States. But I mean, it's a lot. I was talking to somebody from the not the FDA, agricultural departments, because you have to get permits. And let's say that I wanted to do the for my insect zoo, if I wanted to get accredited by the AZA, which is our American Zoos and Aquarium Association. Oh, I know. Just for the accreditation for the AZA, it is $2,000 just to have them come out and inspect. Because I had envisioned something like what I was reading to you, my own private zoo. Like, I had envisioned a zoo that would feature just animals that were native to Indiana. And when you consider feeding and everything like that, it was just too much. An insect zoo would still be expensive. It was probably, I had at one time cages set up behind me, tanks. I probably had $300, $400 in animals. Some of the stuff. And it was costing me I think I was feeding every 2 weeks. It was like $13, $13 to $20 a week to feed everybody. And you don't even have to feed them that often. But you also have to remember that you're feeding invertebrates. You're feeding carnivores. So Baragon, I had planned when I was thinking about doing my insect zoo, I legit had plans to open it up around Halloween time so that parents could come with their kids. One family, because I didn't want to, but then do where you could sleep in the zoo overnight, surrounded by the animals. But then I thought about it, and insurance, man. I mean, you'd have to have insurance anyway. But I had set up plans for group tours. I wanted to do where you're going to have your issues is if you have vertebrates in your collection, that's where it gets hairy. And if you have anything that's endangered, because then you have licenses that you have to worry about. Like, I did not have any plans for anything that is a vertebrate. So no fish, no reptiles, no amphibians, only invertebrates. And honestly, the lady told me she didn't know what I was intending to have. But she told me that as long as I didn't have anything that was against, she didn't think it'd be a problem. And I would still do it in a heartbeat. I just don't have, I would be at a loss. So then I thought, well, I could do it here. I could do it through YouTube. And then I found out, well, my stuff is illegal. Yeah, but then you still have to have the permits. I would love to do a shelter, so that when animals are taken, and I'm not talking like cats, dogs, I'm talking other stuff, that there's a place for them. Yeah, and you would have to have your habitats made before they come in. I'm not trying to tell you what not to do, but it's a lot. By the time you add in staff, because you can't do it all by yourself, yeah. The animals that I was going to have would be animals that I could get legally. So I was going to have, like, during the spring and summer, I was going to do caterpillars and hatch them out and then release. But only ones that are native to my region. But it's a lot. Even this is a lot. I'm looking at, hopefully, I mean, our numbers in live have dropped a little bit. Like right now, I feel like me and Carrie can pretty much handle the live situation. Yeah, the crocodilians, you would definitely need permits. A good if before you do that though, watch now I can't think of his name. Gator Chris's lives or his videos. See what he goes through. See what he goes through. And some of the stuff. It's a lot. By the time it would take me every day, watering took me about a half hour. Feeding took me about an hour. It is worth it, and I'm not saying that it's not worth it, but it is a lot. Anyway, guys, I need to let you go because I need to eat. And as fun as this is, I do need to eat. Anyway, guys, good night. Oh no, it is nighttime here. Be kind. Enjoy. See you guys Tuesday. Bye-bye.